Good morning students. Today I am going to discuss about a very important topic, stretch reflex. And why I have written muscle spindle? We all know receptors for stretch reflex is muscle spindle, which I am going to explain. In general, if you see this diagram and mostly even books, most students get confused. 1A, 1B, 2A, annulospiral, flower spray endings, nuclear bag, nuclear chain, intrafusal, extrafusal. Don't worry, all I am going to discuss, but I am going to decode one by one and it is going to be very, very easy. So at the end of this video, you are going to be clear on stretch reflex and whatever I am mentioning. So today's video I will be discussing about what are the receptors for stretch reflex, which is obviously muscle spindle, and structure of the muscle spindle, types of stretch reflex, and the main thing, the component of the stretch reflex. So what happens during the stretch reflex, why it is called stretch reflex? There are 5 components of reflex arc that I will be explaining. And finally, alpha gamma coactivation, that is also a very confusing topic, but I will make it very, very easy. Don't worry. Now let us enter into the topic. Just to concentrate. Yeah, imagine I am using a knee hammer. So nothing. This is humerus, biceps, triceps. When I strike the tendon of biceps, what is expected? Yeah, flexion of elbow. That is reflex. Just imagine. All of you might have done in physiology practicals and in day-to-day clinical practice also. When I want to check biceps jerk, what I do? I will strike the tendon of the biceps. So when I strike, actually what happens? There is stretch. Very, very important. There is stretch of muscle, which also causes stretch of muscle spindle. Very, very important. I again repeat. So just concentrate. When I am striking the tendon of biceps, yeah, I will explain this. This is called extrafusal fiber, the red color, and the inside orange color is intrafusal fiber, which is a part of muscle spindle. So when I am going to strike the tendon, there is stretch of the muscle, but that stretch of the muscle alone is not enough for causing contraction. Muscle contains muscle spindle, and what happens is the muscle spindle is the one which detects the stretch. Very, very important. So deduction of stretch. So if I ask what is stretch reflex, it is very easy. When the muscle is stretched, the muscle contracts. Correct, accepted. But what is detecting that stretch? When I, for example, when I strike this, what happens? The biceps muscle is stretched. Which is detecting that stretch or lengthening of the muscle? Muscle spindle. That's why the muscle spindle are called receptors for stretch reflex. So now again I ask the question, what are the receptors for stretch reflex? The answer is muscle spindle. Why they are receptors? Muscle spindle is the one which sends the stretch of the muscle. And when the muscle is stretched, when I strike the tendon, the muscle is stretched, as well as muscle spindle is stretched. The stretch of the muscle spindle is detected. Now just to concentrate, the outer red color is extrafusal fiber or muscle. The inner one, which I told muscle spindle. Now I am going to explain about what is muscle spindle. Yeah, one of the function of muscle spindle is it is going to detect the stretch, but how? It contains intrafusal fiber. I have just drawn here, just to concentrate. This is extrafusal fiber. This is intrafusal fiber. This is intrafusal fiber. And this intrafusal fiber is a part of muscle spindle. Very, very simple. So when I am striking the tendon, the muscle is stretched, which is involving the muscle spindle also. When the muscle spindle is stretched, that is being detected, and the length of the muscle stretch is detected by muscle spindle. Now I will tell the components of muscle spindle. Yes, it is nothing but intrafusal fibers and afferents and afferent, which is going to come from the intrafusal fibers. Yeah, which I will tell. Just concentrate here. For example, this is the muscle structure. Extrafusal fiber is present outside. Within the extrafusal fiber is intrafusal fiber. Muscle spindle is including this intrafusal fiber, the afferent coming to the spinal cord from the intrafusal fiber, and the afferent coming to, you can see here, actually the one more afferent comes to intrafusal fiber. This is the structure of muscle spindle. So muscle spindle is intrafusal fiber, afferents coming from intrafusal fiber, afferents coming to the intrafusal fiber. This is called muscle spindle. Before going to the structure of the muscle spindle, I just want to tell the components of the reflex arc for stretch reflex. We all know components of reflex arc: receptors, sensory nerve endings, afferents, synapse, center, afferent, effector organ. These are the components of reflex organ. The muscle spindle, this one, this is intrafusal fiber. So first is stretch of intrafusal fiber, which is a part of muscle spindle. This is important. When stretch occurs, there is firing of afferents. It can be 1A, 2. I will explain. When the intrafusal fibers are stretched, the firing occurs. Initially, for example, when I strike, if I am going to strike very less, the stretch may be less. Then that is called a receptor potential. Receptor potential is not action potential, but when the receptors potential summarize, that will result in action potential. So this is firing. As the intrafusal fibers are stretched, the firing of nerve fibers from the intrafusal fibers takes place. So this is one afferent which can be 1A or 2. So firing, and they enter into the, this is dorsal horn cells, note it down, or dorsal root ganglion. We all know all dorsal roots are sensory. This is sensory, giving the input of the stretch. And here synapse is there, and this is afferent. This is afferent, which is going to extrafusal fiber. So just to concentrate, afferent is coming from intrafusal fiber, which is going via dorsal root ganglion, goes to the spinal cord where the synapse takes place. From the, then the synapse ends in the ventral root ganglion or ventral horn cells. From that, afferent fibers comes, which is called alpha fibers. So far what I discussed, 1A, 2, alpha. So I will write it here, stretch of intrafusal fiber, firing takes place. That's why it is called stretch reflex. Whenever the intrafusal fibers are stretched, the afferents start discharging from the intrafusal fiber in the form of 1A, 2, and this is reaching the spinal cord, synapse occurs, then from the spinal cord afferent, and afferent is going to extrafusal fiber, which is the muscle alpha. In stretch reflex, usually the center is the spinal cord, but controlled by higher centers. Now just to concentrate, this is intrafusal, this is extrafusal. So afferents is coming through the stretch receptors from the muscle spindle, which is intrafusal fiber. Afferent is coming in the form of alpha, motor neuron. Alpha is motor neuron. This 1A, 2 is sensory. And what alpha does? Alpha does contraction of the muscle. That's how muscle is contract. So now see here, I am straight. So now what I have drawn is biceps reflex, which is an example of stretch reflex. I have put synapse. Just you tell me in this diagram, between the afferent and afferent, how many synapses is there? You can even pause the video and tell. Only one synapse. Note it down. So stretch reflex is an example of monosynaptic MCQ, monosynaptic reflex. Only one synapse is there between the afferent and afferent. Contraction of the muscles. In this case, biceps will contract and the response is going to be flexion of elbow. Now let me discuss about the structure of this muscle. I gave an idea what is the reflex, stretch reflex. I will keep it as a question mark. Then what is this doing? This is alpha supplying the, but what is this afferent coming again to the intrafusal fiber, which is gamma. So what is the function of this gamma? Remember, alpha is supplying extrafusal fiber, and the extrafusal fiber is muscle, and the extrafusal fiber contraction only is obviously muscle contraction. But gamma is the output to intrafusal fiber. Now I am going to discuss about the structure of muscle spindle. Yeah. So muscle spindle includes intrafusal fiber, afferent to the intrafusal fiber. So whatever related, for example, see here. Yeah. This is intrafusal fiber, this is intrafusal fiber, this is intrafusal fiber. This we call it as nuclear bag fiber. This is nuclear chain fiber. And this one is one afferent. This one is afferent. This is afferent. So all this nuclear bag fiber, nuclear chain fiber, afferents coming out of the intrafusal fiber, afferents which is gamma coming into the intrafusal fiber, all these are part of muscle spindle. Our intrafusal fibers is divided into two types, nuclear bag fiber, nuclear chain fiber. You can see here, so obviously this is bag shape. You can see I have drawn the structure of the intrafusal fiber. This is going like in the center, it is going like this, bag shape, and then coming down. This is nuclear bag fiber. This is also nuclear bag fiber, but here there is no bag shape. There is no swelling in the center, straight. So this is nuclear chain fiber. And again you see these blue dots. Yeah. In the nuclear bag fiber, the nerve endings are like cluster, the cells are like clusters. Whereas in the nuclear chain it is single, that you can remember. See here. So in the nuclear fibers, the cell bodies are in clusters, whereas in the nuclear chain fibers it is forming a chain like this. See, this is nuclear bag, this is nuclear chain. And what is this spiral, black color? It is spiraling the nuclear bag fibers, it is spiraling the nuclear chain fibers. This is called primary annulospiral endings. Primary annulospiral endings. 1A, please note it down. This one is 1A. So 1A is supplying both nuclear bag fiber as well as chain fiber. Note it down. This one is 2. The violet pink color. Let us see. This is first nuclear bag fiber, second nuclear bag fiber. This is nuclear chain. And now it is very important. And gamma is the output coming out, which is coming out from both the nuclear bag fibers as well as nuclear chain fiber. Right? Now I am going to types. Types of stretch reflex, two types are there, dynamic, static. Dynamic means, for example, this, when I strike, I am not keeping on striking, see here, just I will strike here, flexion of elbow, that will be very knee jerk. You can see, when I strike the patellar tendon, only one strike, immediately within the fraction of second, your knee is extended. All the reasons we discussed, afferent, what happens, afferent, monosynaptic, all note it down. All deep tendon reflexes are monosynaptic reflex. All deep tendon reflexes are, most of the deep tendon reflexes are stretch reflex. I will write it here. Dynamic stretch reflex or phasic stretch reflex. This is static stretch reflex or tonic stretch reflex. This is also static. So DSS. If they ask which reflex is responsible for maintaining the tone of the muscle, usually the answer is static, because you are continuously some stretch is maintained. That is responsible for maintaining your tone of the muscle. The jerks which you are making, most of the jerks, knee jerk, ankle jerk, are mostly dynamic. Just to concentrate. 1A, 2. Afferents of intrafusal fiber. Afferent which is coming to intrafusal fiber is gamma, no doubt in that. Yeah. Now what I am saying is, now again, since it is spiral, we call these endings as annulospiral endings. Annulospiral endings. I already told you to write DSS, right? And this one is, you can see this is like flower, like see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, like flower. So this is flower spray endings. So this is spiral, annulospiral endings, this is flower spray endings. So the afferents which is coming from 1A are annulospiral endings, the afferents which are coming in the form of 2 are flower spray endings. I am asking you, nuclear chain fiber is involved in dynamic, yes or no? You can see from the diagram and tell. See here, nuclear chain, only static, yes. So nuclear chain is not involved in dynamic. Now I will ask nuclear back fiber. Nuclear back fiber is involved in dynamic or static? Yeah, the answer is both. So this nuclear back fiber is involved in dynamic through 1A. This nuclear back fiber is involved in static through 1A and 2. That's what I am telling. So the static nuclear back fiber is receiving or is getting group 2 afferents, static nuclear fiber, whereas the dynamic nuclear back fiber is not receiving 2. That's the difference you should know. Here no 2, but here 2. That's what, see here, this violet color is going only to static nuclear back and static, or I will write it here. So group 2 is static, MCQ. Nuclear chain is static, which is responsible for maintaining the tone. This also you can remember. So group 2 fibers only static, nuclear chain fibers only static, flower spray endings only static, and flower spray endings are coming to static nuclear back and nuclear chain is obviously static. So flower spray endings are coming to supplying the nuclear chain fiber also. So now coming to this question, alpha, gamma, why gamma? Stretch is the base for everything. That's why the topic today discussing is stretch reflex. Intrafusal fibers are stretched and that is detected by the muscle spindle. The muscle spindle is the receptors for stretch reflex and their main function is to detect the stretch. Only if the stretch is being detected, this reflex arc itself will occur. So if, for example, for me, if I am cutting my muscle spindle, when I strike the tendon, maybe it is stretched, but that will not be detected, the signals will not be sent to both brain as well as spinal cord. Very, very important. Yes, now you can tell what alpha does. You please answer what alpha is going to do. Alpha causes contraction of muscle. Alpha is the main output efferent. Yeah, because of the stretch reflex, what is the final output? The muscle, bicep, for example, if I do bicep jerk, biceps is contracting. Now just to concentrate, what should happen? This will contract. Extrafusal fibers are compressing. Yeah. Now what is the fate of intrafusal fiber? Extrafusal fibers are contracted because of alpha. Why alpha is stimulated? Because of 1A2. Why 1A2 is stimulated? Because of stretch. Why there is stretch? Because I am striking. Slackening. To note down the term, some books it is not given. Slackening of muscle spindle means the muscle spindle, after the contraction of the muscle spindle is caught between the contracting muscle. So stretch may not occur, but for the contraction of muscle I occur stretch. Are you able to understand? So to prevent this slackening or to prevent the contraction of the muscle spindle in the center, what happens? This periphery, this is periphery of the muscle spindle. So note it down. The gamma is supplying only the periphery, not center. Note it down. And if you have seen the previous diagram, the nuclear back fiber, nuclear chain fiber, all the cell bodies are also present in the center, not in the periphery. And all the afferents, 1A, 2, mostly come from center of the nuclear back fiber, center of the chain fiber. But this gamma, just to concentrate, it is not going to come here. It is not going to come here. It is gamma is supplying the periphery. Because of gamma stimulation, what happens to the periphery of the muscle spindle or intrafusal fiber? Yes, contracts. Now just to concentrate. Already this center is being compressed by the extrafusal fiber, but what happens to the tip? You have to see my hand also. The tip will be contracted. So contracted means, yeah, now imagine the tips of the intrafusal fibers are pulled because of gamma, or the tips of the muscle spindle are contracted because of gamma. And what happens? There is lengthening. So this prevents, the slackening means compressed, but now what happens because of gamma? So gamma prevents slackening of the intrafusal fiber so that the stretch reflex is continued. To prevent the stretch reflex to be stopped in between, the alpha gamma coactivation is very important. It is also called as alpha gamma linkage. Yeah. So this is the final summary. So I already explained. So what are the receptors for stretch reflex? Muscle spindle. Muscle spindle includes intrafusal fiber, afferents coming from the intrafusal fiber 1A2, efferents to the intrafusal fiber is gamma. Then I discussed about structure. You can see here the muscle spindle, you are having nuclear back fiber, nuclear chain fiber. So this is the structure of muscle spindle. Also afferents 1A, 2 and afferent is gamma. And I explained where 1A is being supplied, where 2 is supplied. I also explained what is annulospiral ending, what is flower spray ending. Just remember this, flower spray ending supplies only static fibers, static stretch reflex. Nuclear chain fiber is mainly for static. Type 2 fibers is mainly for static. That alone you remember. Then I discussed about types. Yeah, that's now I told. Dynamic or phasic, static or tonic. So static reflex is mainly for tone of the muscle and dynamic reflex is mainly for jerks. Remember DSS and remember these group 2 fibers and flower spray endings are not supplying the nuclear back fiber, first nuclear back fiber, or the flower spray endings is not supplying dynamic. Group 2 is not supplying dynamic, that you remember. And finally, this I starting itself told, reflex arc. We are now very clear why the stretch causes contraction of the muscle. Components of reflex arc very clear, and it is a monosynaptic stretch reflex. Alpha gamma I explained how gamma helps in contracting the tips, periphery, and prevents the slackening of the center of the muscle spindle, which happens after the muscle contracts, or when the muscle contracts it compresses the intrafusal. Then how can intrafusal fiber lengthen and how can the signal go to the receptor? Receptor's main function is detecting the lengthening, but when the muscle contracts there is possibility that lengthening may not happen, but that is prevented by tips contraction. The tips of the muscle spindle contraction is by gamma, that's why gamma is motor. So hope you understood this video. I have given an exhaustive lecture on stretch reflex, muscle spindle, and if you have not subscribed my channel, you can subscribe my channel Physiology Lectures by Dr. Sindhul Kumar, and hope this video is very useful. As I told, this is little bit confusing, but I tried to decode one by one and I hope you understood. And if you feel this video was useful, you can share to your medical, paramedical friends. And if you have not subscribed, you can subscribe to our channel and also press the notification button so that whenever I make a new video, it will be easy for you to get notification. Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.